Shanann Watts never saw it coming, and honestly, it's just heartbreaking to think about. Picture this. She had just flown home that night from a work trip, feeling totally wiped out and exhausted. With her pregnancy weighing heavily on her body and her mind racing with thoughts of her little girls, Bella and Celeste, sleeping peacefully just down the hall, she was completely unaware of the nightmare about to unfold. The man lying beside her, the one she trusted with her life, the father of her unborn son, was already plotting her death. Can you imagine the betrayal? It's just chilling. It's like something out of a movie, but this was her reality. She was home, ready to embrace her family, and instead, she was surrounded by danger. It's gut-wrenching to think how she must have felt in those last moments, trusting someone who had turned into a monster. It's a tragedy that leaves you questioning everything about love and trust, right? Chris Watts waited for the house to settle into silence. Then, in a moment that would forever haunt those who knew her, he climbed on top of her and pressed his hands into her throat. Shanann jolted awake, panic coursing through her as she felt the crushing force. Her body convulsed and her lungs screamed for air. She fought back with everything she had. He later confessed that her eyes filled with blood as the vessels burst. Can you imagine? Her face must have been the last thing their unborn son, Nika, ever saw, trapped in a nightmare as his mother was murdered. Chris didn't stop until every muscle in her body went limp, until her pulse faded away. Then he left her there, lifeless and sprawled in their bed, as if she were already nothing. It's a chilling reminder of how trust can be so tragically misplaced. But the horror was just beginning. When Bella and Celeste stirred awake, they still trusted their father. They clung to him as he bundled them into the truck, never realizing their mother's body was lying on the floor beneath them, wrapped in a sheet. Bella's small voice asked if Shanann was okay. Chris said nothing. He drove them for 40 miles, their mother's corpse lying at their feet. The silence in that cab must have been suffocating, a father's breathing the only sound above the hum of the road, while his daughters sat inches away from death itself. At the oil site, under the harsh morning sky, Chris dragged Shanann's body into a shallow grave. The soil was rough, dry, unyielding, and he dug with desperation, as if he could bury his shame in a hole. He left her there, covered her with earth so thin the sun baked her form beneath it. She was not laid to rest, she was discarded like refuse. Then he turned to his daughters. Celeste was first. She weighed only 37 pounds. Chris pressed a blanket over her face, his hands steady, his heart cold, while she thrashed beneath him. Her small fists must have beat against him, her muffled cries begging for breath, and Bella watched. She saw her sister go limp in their father's arms. She knew. She begged him a daddy. No, 2 words that should have pierced any man's soul. But Chris smothered her too, ignoring her pleas, her tiny body fighting until her lungs burned and her eyes glazed over. When it was done, he carried their bodies not to graves, but to oil tanks. Steel containers designed for crude, not children. The openings were only 8 inches wide. He forced Celeste's body through first, twisting her, bruising her, until she dropped into the black sludge below. Then Bella, the same, their skin split against the steel, their limbs bent unnaturally as he pushed them into darkness. The oil swallowed them whole, coating their faces, their hair, their clothes in black until they were no longer recognizable as little girls, just forms adrift in toxic sludge. The tanks sealed them away, slowing their decomposition but erasing their humanity. When investigators eventually recovered the girls, their bodies were saturated with crude oil, distorted and bloated by days submerged in poison. The stench was unbearable. Their hair was matted thick with oil, their lungs soaked with it. Shanann's grave wasn't any kinder. She was buried so shallow that animals could have dug her up, the heat pressing down on her body, her pregnancy making her stomach swell grotesquely beneath the dirt. Nikon never breathed a single breath of life outside her womb, but his death was just as violent. Chris went home, heart racing but face completely composed, like he was just another guy dealing with a missing family. He texted Shanann's phone, acting all innocent, as if he had no clue where she was. Can you believe it? He stood on his porch, grinning for the cameras, pleading for his family's safe return, trying to play the concerned husband. But if you looked closely, his voice was flat, eyes hollow like he was just going through the motions, almost robotic. This guy had done the unthinkable. He strangled, smothered, twisted, buried, and stuffed his loved ones into graves of soil and oil, thinking he could pull off this twisted charade. It's chilling, right? How could someone think they could hide such a dark secret? The disconnect between his actions and his facade is just mind-boggling. It's like he was living in a nightmare, but pretending it was all okay. The truth came out quickly. Cadaver dogs scented death in the house. GPS data tracked him to the oil site, and when pressed, Chris cracked. First, he blamed Shanann, saying she had killed the children. But the evidence betrayed him the timeline, the autopsies, the sheer inhumanity of what he had done. He confessed, and the world recoiled. He was sentenced to life in prison, but no sentence could capture the abyss of his crime. This wasn't just murder, it was annihilation. He erased an entire family, wife, daughters, unborn son because he wanted a new life with another woman. And in doing so, he etched himself into infamy as one of the most cold-blooded family annihilators in American history. That oil site, it's got a heavy vibe and not in a spooky ghost way. It's more about the haunting truth of what went down there. The ground still remembers Shanann's shallow grave, like it's crying out for justice. Those tanks, they stink of crude oil, forever linked to the heartbreaking image of Bella and Celeste, to innocent little girls trapped in their cold, iron tombs. And Chris Watts, he's stuck in his cell, haunted by the chilling echoes of Bella's last words, "Daddy, no." Can you even imagine the weight of that moment? It's a reminder of how fragile life can be and how deep the scars of tragedy run.